What we're going to be talking today a little bit about is the ISO 2121 standard and its applicability in the event industry, which is what Muse is about, sustainable events. So we're super proud to be here as well as part of this community. As Luca said, Right Hub was founded in 2014 as a startup company. He founded it when he turned 50. And of course, we're also carbon neutral company and a benefit company because we declared that in our company statute. These are the associations we participate in. So, of course, Muse, but also in the United States, Green Sports Alliance, Black Book Motorsport in Europe for people and companies operating in this motorsport sector as well, which is one of our areas of expertise. And this is the agenda for today. So, we're going to talk about the standard, its applicability, what value and benefits it can bring having the certification, the effort requested, the requirements, and how the management system is actually structured on top of some case studies, real life case studies that we have worked on in the past few years. So what is the ISO 2012 event management standard? So it was firstly published by the ISO, the International Standardization Organization, in 2012. And the first event that it was applied to were the London Olympics that took place in 2012, of course. This standard is mainly based on the identification of issues and sustainability topics which are relevant to a context that is being analyzed. It basically means that it does not entail a rigid checklist of points that you just have to check out. But it takes into consideration multiple aspects of the event that need to be analyzed. The scope application. So really, when you have an ISO 2012-1 certification, there are multiple ways you can apply it to, because you can apply it to events, so all type of events, small, bigger, festival, congresses, and so on. It can be applied also to suppliers, so companies that supply goods and services or provide goods and services operating in the event industry. So that can mean catering companies, cleaning services, security services, and other organizations that are providers for the event industries. Locations, so any type of location that is hosting an event. In this case, we're talking about arenas, exhibition centers, museums, theaters, congress facilities, racetracks. So there's really a multitude of locations that can be used for hosting events. Organizers, so organizers as far as agencies which design, organize, and execute events, and organizers as far as maybe a department of an organization that is specialized in the organization of its internal events as well. And then teams. So this is particularly important to us because this last scope application is one that we have actively worked on in the past few years, and the achievement of certification by teams which take part in championships or events as well. So moving on. So this is really important to understand because the ISO 2012-1 standard does not only focus on the environmental dimension of events, but it actually takes a three-dimensional approach, taking also into consideration the social dimension and the economic dimension. This is really a unique feature of this standard because, normally speaking, in general, international standards only have a vertical application, meaning that they only deal with one key aspect. For example, the 14001 standard, that is environmental management system, it solely focuses on the environment. While, as you can see in this case, we apply all of the three dimensions of sustainability, which are environment, social impact, and economic impact as well. In this slide, we can see multiple different topics that can be taken in consideration as part of planning events. from all these three dimensions. So employment growth, for example, in the economic dimension, as far as the social dimension, impact with school and universities, collaborations with not-for-profit organizations, and environmentally speaking, of course, sustainable mobility and carbon footprint. These are some examples of ISO 20121 certifications that are valid in the world as of right now. So as far as locations as well, there is in the United States, for example, the Philadelphia Eagles Stadium, or also SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. While when we talk about organizers, one project that we had the pleasure to work on was with Dorna Sports for the MotoGP World Championship. And as far as events go, of course, you have all the Olympic Games because they have this unique feature that they have to obtain the ISO 20121 certification. But we also have some racing series, such as the Porsche Carrera Cup Italia, for example. And when it comes to team, we also worked on certifications on teams participating in championships as well. So moving on. I think it's also really important to recognize what the key benefits are from having a sustainable event management system. So first of all, having this management system can allow for the implementation and improvement of proper governance at the organizational level. On top of that, it can be really important in order to strengthen the relationships with multiple stakeholder categories. And then, of course, this standard supports the organization in reaching the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals of 2030, additionally to accomplishing organizational objectives from the sustainability standpoint. So in this era, I think that sustainability is becoming more and more important. So many organizations are actually attracted to other companies that are focused on sustainability, maybe to do activations and partnership with purpose type of initiatives as well. What are the requirements? So this is another really, really important aspect, of course. So these are the general key provisions that are required by the ISO norm. Of course, one thing that is really important is having a detailed analysis of the organizational context in order to define sustainability issues, which will be involved as part of the project action plan. Another key thing is the development of SMART goals, meaning goals, objectives, targets, which are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. Another key part of this requirement list is the fact that staff has to be trained. So having such a certification also means that your staff is trained on sustainability, on what sustainability means in general, and on what sustainability means at the organizational level and in that specific type of context that we're talking about. Another key requirement is the engagement of stakeholder categories. This is to ensure that an organization can actually impact the people that it's working with and other companies that they're collaborating with in order to spread the culture of sustainability. And of course, finally, we have annually reporting the objectives achieved and issuing a plan for improvement. So one of the key focus areas of all ISO norms actually is continuous improvement, meaning that an organization has to try to, continuously improve their goals and see what type of critical areas they find and find a way to improve that as well. So these are just some general requirements that are taken from the ISO standard itself. So basically, chapter 4 consists in a context analysis, while we can see chapter 5 considers the requirements regarding commitment of the leadership, while chapter 6 is more focused on planning the event and what type of actions to put in place in regards to sustainable management of events. If we move on, we have chapter 7 referring to requirements regarding supporting functions, training, and communication as well. While if we move on and go to chapter 8, These are the sustainability requirements regarding operations, so mainly monitoring performance and understanding how to improve it, or just looking at any critical issues and seeing how to improve that as well. And then we have chapter 9 referring to requirements in that performance evaluation. And finally, chapter 10 regarding continuous improvement. Um, this slide, what are the key documents? So this is basically a list of the key documents that we prepare for organizations as part of their management system. The approach that Right Hub, as a consulting company, uses entails the creation of a system that is made up of all the documents that you can see on this slide. Some really important ones are, for example, the document 6.1, objectives and actions, containing all the initiatives aimed at the improvement of your event and also the implementation of any type of sustainability practices. And then we also have, for example, a document, the sustainability report and the improvement plan, which are two documents that we do as far as reporting goes at the end of the year or at the end of the event, according to the application of the standard, in order to review what achievements have we made with these projects from the sustainability standpoint, and how can we get better next year or at the next edition of this event. Another key feature to take into consideration, of course, is the PDCA approach. So the PDCA approach is an approach on which the ISO 2012-1 norm is based on. And as you can see, it's plan, do, check, act, and at the middle of it, you have continuous improvement. Continuous improvement is always such a focus on, and is part of the whole process, which is actually based on the scientific method of problem solving as well. This is the process cycle regarding the ISO 2012-1 certification. So it briefly represents the main process steps that are followed in the implementation of the management system. Of course, really important first step, carrying out the context analysis, followed by leadership commitment and the creation of an action plan that will actually list all the sustainability initiatives from the economic, social, and environmental standpoint to be implemented. Then we have, of course, it is also necessary to make available the necessary resources and competencies to obtain the success of the project. Another key step that we can see is the implementation of activities with sustainability characteristic and carrying out the monitoring phase of the operational process. And finally, we have, performance evaluation, which ends up with the management system being in place, of course. Then if we move on, so the certification validity, there are different type of validities according to the scope that you choose. So for example, this is a little bit more technical information, but I'll give it to you anyways. So usually the validity of the certification is from 1 to 3 years according to event scope. In case of locations, so for example, stadiums, arenas, racetracks, or suppliers that operate in the event industries and organizers of events, the certification lasts for 3 years. While in the case of an event, that's only being done for a couple of days, then the certification will be done for that amount of time as well. Of course, the first year is the most important one because you have the design execution and certification achievement, while in the following years they're more like maintenance and improvement and see what we can work on in order to improve the management system as a whole. So these are just some example of topics to consider. We have event risk and opportunities, stakeholder engagement, food and beverage, sustainable procurement, logistics, economic impact, health and safety, waste management, and diversity and inclusion. One thing to know is that the ISO 2012-1 actually got just revised. There was a revision that just came out in 2024, and three key topics that this new norm requires to take into consideration when implementing the standard in order to obtain the certification are also focus on climate change, increased consideration of child and human rights, and the enduring impact of an event. So basically, what type of enduring legacy that event has. So these are some topics that need to be considered when implementing not only the management system, but actually when you want to build a sustainable event as a whole. So, project effort and resources needed. So, we cover almost 90% of the work, designing, doing assessments, studying the action plan, understanding what SDGs we can go hit with this project as well. But due to the fact that we have to the ability to cover the 90% of the work, the client only really can cover 10% of it, but of course we need a contact point with them. So what we usually say that we're really an atypical consulting company because we try to support our clients in all aspects of design, planning, implementation, and reporting of the management system. So as I was saying before, that 10% will include a project manager or a representative from the organization in order to help us understand mainly the context of the organization and where they want to go as far as sustainability goals and sustainability strategy as well. These are mainly the first year key milestones. So this timeline is what is followed during the build-up phase of the project until the achievement of certification. So first of all, we have a kickoff meeting. So after the contract is signed, of course. Then we start working on designing, organization, and execution of the management system. We have an internal audit with the client to understand whether we have everything in place, if we have established all the goals, if we have set all the key performances indicators that are needed. And then there's the documental audit with the certification body. So in that case, the certification body will go all over all the documentation that is in place and will ask questions to understand how the sustainability management system in regards to event is being implemented. If the organization passes that audit, then the certification is released, and there are more on-site audits during the event as well. The project duration of this whole process normally is from 4 to 5 months, but it might take even 7 up to 8 months according to how big of a project we're talking about, basically. Um, so one key thing to understand about the certification, comparing it to what is the sustainable event accreditation, this is really important, is that the standard is applicable at the international level, while in many cases, accreditations might have an application that is geographically restricted. Um, this is because the ISO 2012-1 was released initially in 2012 by the International Organization for Standardization, and during the following years, it was translated in multiple languages all over the world, and it was recognized by all these national bodies. On top of that, the ISO 2012-1 standard is applicable to any type of event, regardless of the industry. While in some cases, sustainable event accreditation are only for specific industries. So they only apply to companies operating in a determined sector. On top of that, the ISO 2012-1 certificate is given by a third party, meaning that an external certification body which audits and reviews the whole management system is present. It's a third party audit. This gives credibility to this certification, of course. And then another key thing to keep in mind is that accreditations are usually based on rigid checklists which have to be followed, while the ISO 2012-1 management system has to comply to the requirements that are present within the standard. And the fact being that the standard has to apply to all types of events, this means that the requirements need to be really high, at a high level, let's say, because anyone has to be able to apply this standard when implementing their event. So now we're going to talk a little bit about some case studies which Right Hub has worked on. So first of all, we have AIDP. So basically, we have worked on this event, which is scope of event, meaning it's the Italian Congress of HR Managers. Almost 1,000 professionals and over 20 partners were present at this event. It took place in Florence, Tuscany, and the event duration was of 2 days. We worked with AIDP in 2022 and 2023 and working with them for the next event on certification as well. Some of the key results that were obtained in this case were activation of agreements with transportation companies to encourage the use of sustainable means of transport for attendees, use of recycled materials for promotional materials, and the involvement and collaboration with nonprofit organizations to produce welcome bags at the event. Another event scope application that we have worked on is the Sailing Championship, our S21 Italian Cross World Championship. It took place in Sardinia, Porto Rotondo, and about 170 team members were part of this World Championship event, which lasted 4 days. We worked with them in 2023. And some of the key results that we obtained were traveling by electric scooters and bicycles within the harbor, establishing a sustainability committee that actually organizes talks on sustainability-related issues, and ensuring that all the facilities were accessible to people with disabilities and people with reduced mobility. And we also did a measurement of the economic impact on the local area, basically from suppliers. This is also an event scope application of the ISO 2012-1 standard. It's a series of marketing events in the automotive sector. Almost 5,000 people participated. The location of the event was circuits and racetracks all over Europe and urban itineraries. The event duration was about 30 events of 2 days through the course of a year. We worked with them in 2022, 2023, and 2024. And some of the aspects and key results to be considered was the measurement of the CO2 avoided through separate waste collection, ensuring that the facilities were accessible to people with disabilities and reduced mobilities, the donation of any food surplus that was generated by the catering service operating at the event, and the measurement of the economic impact at the local level as well. On the other end, we now move on to a location scope application. So we're working with Dertona Basket Campus. This is a work in progress because the arena is actually the whole city and the whole area is actually being built right now. The arena will have a 5,000 people capacity in Italy, Tortona. Some key objectives that have been planned is implementing waste sorting and separation in all locations of the basketball campus, accessibility of all areas to people with reduced mobility, implementation of an efficient lighting system using materials that have a reduced environmental impact, and measuring the local economic impact as well. Now talking about organizer scope. So in this case, it was the Dorna Sports, who is the organizer of the MotoGP World Championship, to obtain the certification in 2022. Their certification has a 3-year validity, so it will expire in 2025. We're still currently working with them. This is important to actually say that number of participants, it has 2.5 million spectators which attend the championship on a yearly basis. So this is really a big project that involves a lot of people and a lot of stakeholders. Of course, some key results obtained were the implementation of remote TV production in order to reduce carbon footprint, also from the standpoint of logistical emissions of people and staff moving all over the world. Implementation of using fuel-efficient cargo aircrafts for the transportation of materials from racetrack to racetrack. Implementation at all events of food surplus collection. So we're really proud of the donation that the MotoGP World Championship does to all the local communities as far as food goes, collaborating with not-for-profit and local associations as well. We also have a fundraising activity, which is Two Wheels for Life. It's the official charity of MotoGP. And of course, local employment of local workers at event in different areas. So this really has a big impact as well. And then we have a case study regarding suppliers. So this catering company, Estabila Fenice, who also operates internationally, obtained the ISO 20121 certification in 2022. In their case, it is also a 3-year certification. And some of the key results that were obtained were implementing a service proposal respecting sustainability, including in the setup aspect and aspect of the menu. So they actually offer a sustainable menu. Collection and donation of any surplus food generating during the events, and assessment of direct and indirect employment impact in the territory of events. So, they might need an extra hand during this big event, so they actually employ people from the local area as well. And then we have the last scope application of the ISO 20121 certification, which is the team. In this case, we worked with a team that participated in the 2023 and 2024 World Endurance Championship, the WEC, which has about 250 team members, but is watched by 250,000 spectators that attend these events on a yearly basis. The World Endurance Championship has 7 race weekends per year. And some of the achievements that were obtained by the team was using recycled materials for team members' uniforms, implementation of an effective waste management system within their hospitality areas, accessibility of structures for people with reduced mobility, and implementation of a measurement system regarding the accommodation expenses that were done locally by the team. So if you want to know more about what we do and what are our case studies, we actually have delivered more than 40 ISO 20121 projects around the world and in multiple sectors as well. So you can actually have a look and read our case study book, which is free of download at our website in the resources section. So this was our, let's say, presentation talking about what the ISO 20121 certification is. You can always contact me if you have any questions or doubts, or also Luca, who actually talked at the beginning. So this was my presentation. If you guys have any questions, we can move on now to the Q&A.